born and raised in the New Orleans area out of Mandeville High School and Tulane University. And, of course, he owns and operates the Louisiana Knights travel baseball operation, a terrific operation at that, and also works for the Dodgers as a pitcher consultant and formerly worked for the Rays. You get my drift? Great to welcome Jack Crescend to the broadcast. Jack, thank you. It's good to have you with us, man.
Thank you, Ken, for having me.
So you couldn't have scripted this any better, right? I'm sure you still have some Rays gear in your closet, right?
I do, actually. I still have plenty of Rays gear, but there's no question, what I'm wearing this time of year, all Dodgers.
I hear you. Well, you just traded one blue for another. What the heck, man? It's all good. But I just think it's a great story when you're talking about so many different ties that bind, and they all stem back to Tulane University and Rick Jones. Now, when Rick got to Tulane, you were there. That was your first year, I believe, and he inherited you, but he raves about you and talked about how special you were to their program. But then you talk about all these other ties that bind. It's pretty special. Of course, Andrew Friedman, who's been the architect of the Rays and the Dodgers now, whom you work for. Brandon Gomes, who, of course, played at Tulane and now is assistant GM of the Dodgers. Michael Johns, a minor league field coordinator for the Rays, who did a great job this year handling that whole situation with the taxi squad. And then certainly, you can't ignore Aaron Loop, who's been pitching in the majors for a long time and gets to a World Series with the Rays. Everybody tied to Tulane. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's definitely an exciting time of year. And, like you said, the ties that, lead back to Tulane it's pretty special. And it all started, back in those days under Coach Rick Jones. And, Coach Jones always would, talk to us about, your college choice, and being at Tulane was much more than a 4-year decision. It was a 40-year decision. And, some of that is coming to fruition, now seeing Andrew and Brandon, leading the baseball operations with the Dodgers, and, Aaron Loop, who I was fortunate enough to coach at Tulane, seeing him, with the career he's had, and, an opportunity to pitch in the World Series is super exciting. And, of course, my teammate Michael Johns has been instrumental with the Rays for many years. And so it's an exciting time. And it's certainly special that it all started for all of us at Tulane.
Visiting with Jack Crescend, and when I talked to Jim Hickey earlier this afternoon, Jim said, in baseball, it really is all about relationships, more than perhaps any other sport, and that kind of explains it. Jim going to coach the Nationals with Davey Martinez, whom, of course, you know very well from your days with the Rays and with Joe Madden. It's the relationships. Well, that's the same thing which holds true with Andrew Friedman and your own relationship, correct?
Absolutely. It's it's the baseball world's it's a small world, and it is all about relationships. And my last year as a player, I went to spring training with Tampa, and didn't pitch very well at all, and didn't deserve to make the team. And so I got sent down, and decided at that point I was gonna just stop playing and move on in my life. And had a great conversation with Andrew kind of at the end of that. And, he had mentioned, if I wanted to get into scouting, to let him know, or get into something on the baseball side, maybe he would have something for me. And that's kind of what started that for me in my next steps was that relationship that stemmed from Tulane. And so I took a position with the Rays and helped in their scouting department, focused mainly on pitching. And then when Andrew decided to go to L.A., he offered me an opportunity to go with him, and so I did. And for the last 6 years or so, I've been part of the amateur scouting department and helping focus on the pitching and helping us make decisions in the amateur draft. And it's been a real blessing for me and my family, and I couldn't feel more lucky than to be part of the Dodgers.
Well, when you look at the Dodgers, what's interesting about this team and how it's constructed, it's a little bit of everything. It's drafting well in development players, and we can name some of those, obviously, but it's also picking and choosing correctly when they enter the free agent market. And, I mean, goodness gracious, who can add Mookie Betts, right? So that's pretty special to go out and get a guy like that to add to what's already a potent lineup, and a lineup that had a whole bunch of left-handed bats that could swing it. Now you add a right-handed guy to go with Turner, among others, that can certainly be productive. But the Dodgers have done it both ways. Of course, you and I talked earlier today, you have to have a budget to be able to do that. That's the beauty of being with a big market team that draws so well. That's a national brand like the Dodgers, is there is money to spend, but you got to spend it wisely.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think that's the unique part of what we're, doing right now with the Dodgers is not just leaning solely on, the ability to sign free agents and plug holes every year, at the major league level. It's just the emphasis on the draft and player development and building a farm system that can plug into our major league club. And, I think that's what's been really special to see. And it all, it all comes down to, Andrew Friedman and his leadership, and, what he's been able to do in this game is really incredible. And I think that's why we're in such a good position at this point, and why we're able to, compete for the postseason every year and compete for a World Series title each and every season, is just a combination of making smart decisions in free agency, but also being able to draft and develop, players that can contribute at the major league level, which, is not an easy thing to do. And we've had a lot of success with it, and it just speaks volumes to, our player development staff and our scouting staff under Billy Gasparino. And like I said, it's just been a blast to be a very small part, of that process.
Visiting with Jack Crescend of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and of course, the Tampa Bay Rays. You can't help but admire what that organization's been able to do. You saw it firsthand when you were there. They never draw well. I've been there many times to games, and they don't have a whole lot of money, and they're on the wrong side in St. Pete, and the stadium is antiquated, and they've done it up. They've dressed it up as best as they can, and yet they were good for several years. Playoff team, got to the World Series in 2008 when you were there. They had a really good staff. Davey Martinez, Jim Hickey, Joe Madden did a great job there, and that's hard to sustain over an extended period of time. And they did hit the skids for a couple of years, but now they've bounced back. Kevin Cash has done a terrific job. The organization has continued to do a great job of identifying players. When they do go out and get players from other teams, they have to shop the prudent method, right? They can't go spend a lot of money, but they simply have made great trades. They've hit on it in the draft, and they've signed those guys that they've been able to plug in without spending a lot of money. You got to admire what they've done.
There's no doubt, and my time at the Rays was kind of the beginning of my scouting days, and just to be around those people, and at the time Andrew was leading the ship, but a lot of the same people that were there then are now at the top of their operations. Eric Neander, of course, Chaim Bloom was there before he went to Boston. Just in their scouting department. Rob Metzler and several guys that have been there for many years. They just do an outstanding job, and it's the culture there, I think, is what Andrew established, and they've just continued it. And it's a lot of really good people, and it's tough. I mean, like you said, they don't have the ability to go out and plug in free agents every year, just due to lack of really just money to be able to do it, but. They just done a tremendous job of developing players and making smart decisions. So it's exciting to see, because I still have a special place in my heart for Tampa Bay and those people, and have many friends there, and friends that are in the scouting department for them, and Michael Johns, of course. So it's going to be tough over here over the next week to pull against them, but I'm gonna have to do it, because, like I said, it's all Dodgers for me.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, being a pitcher and being a pitching instructor and consultant, everybody has an opinion about what the Rays are doing with their pitching, with the way their starters just don't pitch very long at all, and they use that bullpen the way they do. You can't argue with the success they've had, and yet I've heard wildly different opinions from people. From some that say it's a brilliant concept to others that say it's ridiculous and it'll never last and everything else. Opinions are opinions, and nobody's right or wrong. What do you think about the way they're handling pitching and that whole concept of going to the bullpen so early and so frequently?
Well, I think it's. I think it's a brilliant concept. There's so much analytics in today's game and information, available to you. So what they've done is maximize that and looked at it from a advantage standpoint. If they could find a way to maximize their pitching staff and matchups and putting players in the best situations to succeed. And yeah, it's definitely not something that's normal. You don't see it a ton, but I think what they've been able to do is it's pretty fascinating. And really hats off to them for going against the grain and doing something different, and basically, I guess in a way, starting a little bit of a new trend in the way bullpens are used. But you can't really do anything other than respect what they've done with that.
The narrative right now is, well, the Dodgers are an overwhelming favorite. They're just a better team and everything else. You're a little bit wary of that, I would imagine, right?
Well, yeah. Obviously, you don't get to this point in the season, if you're not a really outstanding club, and Tampa Bay has proven that they've been really good all year long, and they've performed in the playoffs, and they're as good a team as anybody. So I think it's you get to this point, and it comes down to execution, and who's going to get the big hit in the big spots, and make the least amount of mistakes, and I'm sure it's going to be a heck of a series, and one that'll probably end up taking 7 games to figure out, but it's going to be an exciting time, that's for sure.
When you look at the matchup, the thing that's gotten my attention is the power arms that you have on both sides. You've got some young guys that we've watched all year and watched, and of course Buehler. Everybody knew about Buehler, and now you see these guys, Ray and Gonsolin, that you throw out there throwing BBs, and Kershaw doesn't even pitch in Game 7. The Rays, Glass now, he's a stud. Snell's a stud. There's just some really good arms in this series.
There's no question. It's a velocity-driven game today, and the velocity is just, even in the amateur world. We see it, every year now. Just it seems like the last few years, it's just been velocity is just everywhere, and the old kind of 90 mile an hour number, where everybody was kind of searching for and trying to reach. Now that seems 90 miles an hour is below average in today's game. And if these guys come out of the bullpen, most of these guys are throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour, and it's really impressive to see just the sheer volume of the velocity. It seems like it's on every street corner, but it's just a trend in today's game, and I'm sure it's not going anywhere. I'm sure it will continue.
No doubt about it. What do you make about a couple of minutes left with Jack Crescend? I want to get into Louisiana Nights too, but what do you make about the way this abbreviated season unfolded? You think by and large it went pretty well? We know about the major COVID issues with the Marlins and the Cardinals, but they overcame it, and both teams actually got into this convoluted playoff system as well. Do you think Major League Baseball handled all of this well, and did you like the expanded playoffs and the rule changes? I certainly have an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know that I personally love the expanded playoff system, but I think just given where we were in time, and the uncertainty of the season, and how to pull this off safely, obviously a lot of players had to leave their families and kind of go into the bubble, so to speak, and I just think there was an enormous amount of challenges for Major League Baseball to try to figure out. And I think all things considered, the fact that we were able to pull it off, I think is just tremendous. Like I said, obviously nobody wanted a shortened season. It definitely changed the dynamics of, the approach. And of course the rosters were expanded. So you had more bodies in the dugout and on the roster. And so it created a different set of challenges. But I think all in all, in this crazy, year of 220, it's exciting to be at this point, and, to be able to have a World Series, and obviously to be a part of it is just obviously feel blessed to be in this situation. And, I think all in all, yeah, I do think they handled it, as well as they could have, just like I said, minus the number of teams in the playoffs, but all in all, it was a huge success.
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much everything you said. And I like the fact that there'll actually be fans in the stands again. I think that really added to the atmosphere and created some degree of energy for both the Dodgers and the Braves in their series, unlike the American League in San Diego where there were no fans. So I like that too. Globe Life looks like a really nice place. I haven't been there yet. Certainly look forward to doing it. My feeling about these rules is I hope they're just a one-year deal. I don't like the expanded playoffs, as I wrote in my piece today. I think baseball is the best sport of all at determining a true champion because you play 162 games, and then you only take the best 10. Well, you expand it like this, and anything could have happened. And I mean, without being critical, but then again, I will be, you almost had a team with a losing record make the World Series in the Astros. And to me, that would have been embarrassing to Major League Baseball, not because of what happened last year, but because they had a losing record and no business being in the playoffs, much less the World Series. As far as the other rules, the having to pitch to 3 batters, I don't like that. The runner at second in extra innings, I hate it. I think it's pathetic.
Yeah.
so I just think, look, I understand tweaking things. I understand considerations, but the beauty of the game is that it's the game. And putting a runner at second base is not the game. And, oh, by the way, I would love to see the leagues unified, either not with a DH or with a DH. I've been one of those rare traditionalists who's not been a DH guy, but I'd be okay with that if both leagues ended up doing it permanently because you construct your roster as such. Because let me tell you something, the Dodgers have hitting depth. Some teams don't. And National League teams, in some cases, made decisions in the offseason about guys not knowing there was going to be a DH. And had they known, they would have made a different decision.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I wish the leagues were unified in that, in the DH. Just to me, it really doesn't make a lot of sense as to why one would do it and not the other. But I definitely agree with you on that, and I also agree with you on the runner at second base and extra innings. I wish it was, there's certain, I guess, sanctity of baseball where it's just, the game was meant to be played a certain way, and yes, I agree. We have to make changes to make the game better, but I think there's certain aspects of it that, it should be the way the game was, invented. And so, yeah, we're on the same page with a lot of that.
You bet. Final thought in the last minute or two before you get away. Louisiana Knights, you've got an organization that's prospered, that's done a great job at helping to provide avenues for players to continue to play much of the year, and you've done it in cooperation with some schools where they can actually do things with the school and do things with your program, which is, by the way I like seeing it because I think it's beneficial to everybody. I like kids having the opportunity. I like the schools. I love to see the schools have their kids, but I also like to see the schools work in conjunction with these entities, and I think your organization has done it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely a focus of ours to work with the high school coaches and programs, and we've done it. We've been able to do a great job of that for the most part, and we continue daily to develop better relationships with the high school coaches, and because at the end of the day, we're all trying to we all have the same goal. We're trying to help kids and help players progress in their careers, and that's ultimately our mission. And it's a group effort, and we've been very fortunate to work with many great high school coaches all throughout our region, to work together for the betterment of the players, and that's ultimately what we're striving to do.
Well, keep up the great work with the Louisiana Knights, and of course, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers and to the Tampa Bay Rays for that matter, and a unique World Series for you and for all the others I just mentioned that have ties to Tulane and some that have ties to both the Rays and Dodgers. Pretty special, and we really look forward to it. Jack Crescend, thanks so much for the time tonight. Keep up the great work, and let's enjoy a very good World Series, I hope.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you having me, Ken, and go Dodgers.
You got it. All right, Jack. My pleasure. Jack Crescend.